Oh, you know what? Oh, yeah.
Okay, gang, we are live. Hey, welcome to the Missouri Freedom Initiative. It's a wonderful day. It's a Thursday, and it's the last day of the month. It's the 31st of March. All day long it was. And I want to welcome everyone who's joining us. Give us a 5 by 5. We got one from Casey Rich and Sheraton Farmer. We got some special guests tonight. We have Ariel joining us from Ohio, who's kind of interested in what we're doing
Not
here in,
Ohio.
oh, not Ohio?
Louisiana,
No,
actually, at the
Louisiana.
moment.
Louisiana.
Okay, gotcha.
I
From
was talking
Louisiana.
about someone else earlier.
Okay,
Ohio,
gotcha.
Louisiana.
I am so sorry. I misrepresented where you're from, Ariel. I'm sorry about that.
Very different state.
Yes, it is a very different state. We have Scott with us, also known as Gun Eye. We have Casey Rich with us, Liberty Revolutionary, also known as Caleb. Plus, we also have John with us, the Missouri Liberty Report. And for those of you joining us on YouTube, thank you very much for joining us. Whether you're watching this live or in a replay, we're going to have some timely information for you today on some important Missouri bills. And as we wait for more 5x5s to come in, make sure you guys can hear us okay, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the liberty movement. And I titled this video that liberty is not a spectator sport, and I'll tell you why. And I'm not trying to be offensive to the vast amount of friends I've acquired on Twitter and on Gitter, those two social media platforms. The deal is, what are you doing to further liberty? Are you creating memes and passing them around social media? Or are you actually trying to affect change in your state? We've said from the very beginning, from starting this organization, that it's not worth the fight in D.C. In fact, if everyone concentrated on fighting in their states, the D.C. problem goes away anyway. And that's something that a lot of people fail to see. What we like to do, I suppose, is watch the evening news or get on our favorite social media and find out what's going on in the Ukraine, whether or not it's a good idea for kids to go transgender and things of that. We get distracted with these things rather than actually focusing on the good work that actually produces results. Missouri is one of the states that has produced a lot of results. Our SEPA legislation is unique. No other state has what we have. We have more gun freedom in the state of Missouri than any other state in the entire United States, bar none. We are way ahead of them. We're a light year ahead. Every state that tries to get SEPA ends up losing its teeth, or in other words, losing the ramifications or the consequences to law enforcement for breaking the law, thereby perpetuating, basically qualified immunity. So as we go forward, let's think about that. If like for instance, just say, on Twitter, if literally 1% of the keyboard warriors on Twitter would turn their efforts towards their state, a huge impact could be made. So we're going to talk more about that later, but I'm assuming you guys can hear us on YouTube. Hopefully you guys can hear us. I know we're live. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, looks like, let's see here. I mean, listen. Yeah, it's coming through on YouTube.
Okay, good deal. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to start talking about Edward Bowman chiming in from North Alabama. Hey there, Edward. Thank you for joining. Triple T is with us again. Hey there, welcome back. We're going to talk about where we're at on some of the bills that matter to us in Missouri, and that could actually get us out of the 10th Amendment doghouse. That's right. I was informed recently that every state, from Michael Bolden, by the way, at the 10th Amendment Center, every state in the United States, is in the 10th Amendment doghouse. We in Missouri want to be the first ones out of that doghouse. So we want to actually use the 10th Amendment to actually make us freer, getting us, kind of out of the grips of the tyranny that's happening in the federal government. We could say that for now. Mountain Grove, Missouri, Warrior Class 3, thank you for joining. David Talpos, hello. Some names here I don't recognize. Thank you for joining. So let's go ahead and kick off by letting you guys say a little something. You guys want to say a little something before we delve deep into the legislation? We're going to cover 6 bills tonight. And I know all of us have a little bit of information on most of those bills and where they're at, because some of them have moved in the last couple of days. So first of all, Ariel, thank you for joining us. And so how are things? Well, I'm sorry, you're in Alabama, is that correct?
Louisiana.
Louisiana. Okay, sorry, I get the southeastern states mixed up.
I'm actually in Louisiana at the moment. I am currently in Baton Rouge working with Young Americans for Liberty's Hazlet Action Program. We are doing our best to get a constitutional carry bill passed in Louisiana this year. It's been in the legislature in previous years. It has failed very, very narrowly, unfortunately. And what I'm hoping for is that my efforts and the efforts of the rest of my team here in Alabama will be the push that we need to get constitutional carry passed in Louisiana.
Wonderful. So basically, you're working with a larger group to get that done. Is that correct?
Yes, I am working with the Hazlet Action Program, which is run by Young Americans for Liberty.
Okay. And basically, do you guys have a strong grassroots action going along with that group, or are you building one right now?
It is a grassroots-based organization. It's essentially student-based. There are student chapters on college campuses all over the country, and that's largely where the activist base comes from. Those are the people who first get involved on college campuses, learning about the ideas of liberty, discussing them with their peers, learning how to become activists, and then they spend their time, during their breaks or after they graduate, as I'm doing right now, doing things like working for candidates for state legislatures all over the country to get them elected. And then once they are in office, pressuring them to pass liberty-oriented legislation like constitutional carry, which this year we have already gotten passed in Alabama and Indiana.
Wonderful. Congratulations. Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
Constitutional carry is very important. That's a very important bill to get done. So that's wonderful. You guys are, you remember now, without the Second Amendment, the other amendments are, just kind of, null and void, aren't they?
Right.
Yep. So yeah, that is absolutely great. Do you mind if I ask? I'll tell you, I'm 50 years old. How old are you?
I'm 21.
God bless you. If we had some more 21-year-olds out there fighting for liberty, holy mackerel. You guys have a lot of energy.
What was I doing when I was 21?
Yeah, me too. I wasted a lot of my youth when I was younger. I was politically active, but I wasn't fighting so hard for the Second Amendment back then. When I was younger, it was all about the pro-life movement for me. So that's where I spent most of my time at that time.
It was all about the 80s for me.
Gotcha. Okay, so concealed carry has made a lot of inroads. I'm sorry, constitutional concealed carry has made inroads all over the United States in the past 4 years, particularly in the last 2. Missouri got it in. We got constitutional concealed carry, I believe, November of 2016. Went into effect January 1st of 2017. It was on the same ballot Trump was on, by the way, and so we got it at that time. We had concealed carry, I think, about 15 years before that, but constitutional is better. Basically, anyone can carry then at that point. I do recommend people get training and know how to handle a weapon, of course, but that is definitely a major step forward. So congratulations to you and your group. You're doing wonderful work.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, so we have a lot of people chiming in over here on YouTube. Before we get to our first piece of legislation, let's see. Looking to move to Mountain Grove from Edward Bowman. Mountain Grove is beautiful, by the way. I've done a lot of work there in the past. It's a great place, Edward. We'll be just a couple of weeks, do more fact-finding. Happened to, actually, my parents were in confiscated guns and then everything else. Okay. Donald says it's what happened to the country my parents were from. They first confiscated guns, then everything else. Do you mind if I ask what country that is, David? And then Edward says, I'd like to hear more about Missouri's advanced stand your ground legislation. Yep, we're going into that tonight, by the way. There's a little bit of movement there. And so, let's see. Donkey, let's make sure that you have a role. You have a role. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good deal.
You can unmute your mic.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Hey, welcome aboard, Donkey Punch. Love the name.
My buddy from Ohio.
Yeah.
Yep, hail from Ohio. Just passed constitutional carry. It goes in effect in June 15th.
Hey, congratulations, man.
Yeah, I think we're number 26.
Okay. Yep, there you go, man.
now. States that have done it. The only downside is when they pass it, we still can't conceal carry in the car. We still have to follow the transportation laws unless we have a carry permit.
Were you
So we still got a
involved?
little more work on it.
Were you involved
I
in
was
that
not.
fight? Okay, gotcha. Do you know how
No,
the
I
fight
mean, I was out there protesting and rallying for it, but they amended it at the last minute and took out the car, but we don't have to tell police officers right from the get-go that we are carrying. We just have to answer if they ask us if we're carrying.
I would
Okay.
still call a lawyer and find out exactly what they think about that, because you said how it's written, and I'm curious
Yeah, how
which
it's
way
written,
that goes.
because part of the bill, it was SB 215. They part of the Ohio legislature, that they passed part of it with they consider the car an extension of the home, but if a car is an extension of the home, why can't I carry in my home?
Hmm.
It's kind of convoluted. So there's going to be some legal. I believe they're already rallying lawyers to get clarification for, but it's kind of like common Ohio legislation. It's convoluted.
Yeah. And also, David Talpos has chimed in. Romania is where his parents came from, where they confiscated guns, and then after that, they took away everything else. Let's see. Rabbit Cody, hello from Lake of the Ozarks. Okay, all right, gang. Well, I'll tell you what, without further ado, let's start working on our legislation here. And by the way, this is not in order of any particular order of importance. It is simply numerically ordered from the lowest numbered bill to the highest numbered bill. So we're going to start with, in fact, I can share my screen if you guys want to follow along here in Discord as opposed to YouTube. So give me a second here, and I will share that screen, and we'll go live.
All right.
Okay, so you guys should be able to follow along with me on the screen in real time. The first one we're going to cover is civil asset, or we'll call it asset forfeiture. This is Tony Lavasco's bill, and this one actually did pass committee, and it passed.
Everybody else.
Go ahead.
Is everybody else seeing the actual stream, or are they seeing the bill?
I'm watching the
On the
screen.
screen.
All I
Okay,
see
but
is
you
the
see.
screen.
Okay, Patrick, you're gonna have to stop the stream, and then you're gonna, when you open it up, you need to select your other browser.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Because right now I'm seeing his cursor bouncing around all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
window of a
Okay.
window.
Okay. We'll start the stream again. Screen. Let's see, 2. See. I'll go to lower frame rate. That should help out. And we'll go live.
Okay.
Okay.
And then don't minimize Discord. Just click on the other bar.
I didn't minimize Discord.
Okay. Well, now it's still doing the.
It's still okay. All right, guys, just kind of play along. Then you guys can watch. Have a screen with YouTube, and you can actually see the actual legislation. Sorry about that. But I am sharing the screen as best I can anyway. It shows up on YouTube. So on YouTube you can see it. Okay, 1613. This is Lavasco's asset forfeiture. And that actually went through rules and legislative oversight. And it was today, this morning. So at any rate, we don't have any really good updated notes on that yet. That's usually 24 hours later. Caleb, do you have any updated information on this one?
Well, the best I can say is they modified section 1 of it, or I guess I should say subsection 1 of it, to include except as provided by this section and section 513.47, which I included that in a direct message to you, but effectively it took it from just being a period at the end of that first section. Do you want to pull up the actual language?
Okay.
On there?
Gotcha. 1 second.
Okay.
Okay. This is the one that has. This is.
There's one that's introduced and one that's committee.
Okay. This is the one with all the extra language, 3 paragraphs.
Yeah, the committee version one.
Yep.
Wait, are you picking on bill summary or bill text?
I can't tell um, because it doesn't actually show that information.
Oh, never mind. I see that. Never mind. Okay, so that one is Missouri Revisers statutes. Okay, it's a little bit of a delay here. You're back out of that.
Okay, and we want to open up.
There's two that I sent you prior that were on
Okay,
your
prior.
screen that were both PDF files.
Okay, you want C?
C, yeah.
Okay. Okay, there we go.
Okay, let's give it a second so I can see right where you're at. How far is this delayed?
As much as YouTube wants it delayed.
I know. Let's give it a second here because I want to make sure you're on the right thing. Okay, now it's coming in. You're finally clicking it on YouTube. All right, that works.
Yeah, it's about a 10 to 15 second delay on YouTube.
Yeah, it seems
Yeah,
that
that's
way.
awful.
Sorry
It's
about that,
awful.
guys. There's nothing I can
Oh
do
no,
about that.
you're good. I just want to make sure you have the right thing up in front of people. So the section 1 there, that's right behind the first part there. It says 513.655.
Yep. No law enforcement agency or prosecuting authority shall refer, transfer, or otherwise relinquish possession of property seized under state law to a federal agency by way of adoption of the seized property or other means for the purpose, or the property's forfeiture under Controlled Substances Act 21 U.S.C. Section 881, or the Comprehensive Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Act of 1970, publication I or L 91-513 section. This is pretty boring stuff, guys.
Well, my point being is okay, so it's citing the sections, it's saying you can't do that.
Yep.
But then you'll notice at the end of that they put a comma and they put except as provided by this section 513 or by this section and section 513.647. The problem with that is it defers back to other things that are previously in Missouri laws that gives a scapegoat to actually get over to go ahead and do it anyway.
Okay,
In
so
a way, this thing is kind of designed along the lines of SEPA. Basically, if a federal agency comes in here on their own and does asset forfeiture, then the state ain't going to stop them. But it's once the state gets involved with them, then that's when they start.
Yes, and that's how
stepping in.
that's how it was originally designed. There's like 3 sections in this that are sketchy. So initially, what is that section? Let's see here. Where is it? Section 2 in here is sketchy to be least. But we're continuing on section 1 here, the part that it talks about except as provided by this section and section 513.647. Now I sent you 516 or 513.647, and it's wordy, it's long, it's not worth trying to read here. But in short, it basically states that yes, you have an opportunity to appeal the theft of that property. I'm going to call it what it is, theft. And but in the hearing, you either have to prove, and it says, or the prosecutor can just claim that it's better served with the federal government, which adds a big loophole to that big first section. So either that needs to be struck off of there, or the part after "or" on the other one needs to be struck out of Missouri law. One of the two needs to be amended in this imperfection.
So
okay,
for like a layman's understanding of it, does that basically mean like if the local cops were to do like a drug bust, they would just have to have a federal agent with them to seize the property?
No, in this circumstance, let's say you have how it was initially written, they could not hand that property over to the federal government with the non-committee substitute, the original edition of this, with that first section. The new section brings it subject to another part of Missouri law that says, okay, well, you can take the property and then it has to go through legal proceedings to where you can challenge it, and then you can either lose the challenge by not providing a good enough reason, or, and this is where it gets sketchy, it says, or the, let me pull it up here. I have it right here. It's right at the bottom. It says, or that the nature of the investigation or seizure would be better pursued under federal forfeiture statutes. The court shall order that transfer shall be made. So the point being is that that last little bit of that section in Missouri law effectively gives the prosecutors a scapegoat to say, oh, this would be better served with the feds anyway, so we'll just send it off to the feds. So that little addition of that last little bit on that first section effectively undoes the entire thing.
Yep, it makes it a watered down, basically a feel good bill. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another thing I would say is Section 2, if you see how it reads, law enforcement agency may participate in joint task force or other multi-jurisdictional collaboration, including a task force with federal agencies to fight crime. That is so broad. Section 2 needs to be struck out of this.
Yep.
And then the last one is Section 6. It says nothing in subsection 2, 3, or 4 of this section shall be construed to restrict a law enforcement agency from acting alone or collaborating with another agency, including a federal agency, to seize contraband. And what are they going to consider contraband?
Improper laws.
So this it's riddled with holes right now. And they also, in Section 4, where it talks about on the first version, it required a minimum, and this is specifically talking about U.S. currency. You would have to have $100,000 that they were suspecting was involved with something before they could try to seize it. Now, in the new version that came out of committee, it's $50,000, and it applies the same principle that is under the first section. So it's a screwball bill at this point.
Okay, we don't have notes yet
protected.
on who made these changes or applied these changes before it passed committee, do we?
We do not at this point
Okay.
in time. However,
go ahead.
The only person, let's see if I can find it. The only person, let's see, witnesses, and this is witness testimony that came from a previous hearing against it, was the usual culprit. Kevin Merritt, Missouri Sheriffs United.
Yep, there we go. You see, gang, what Caleb and I were discussing earlier today, actually off camera, is that there's influence coming from the federal government through some sort of lobbying firm for law enforcement, and then coming through to affect and literally neuter this bill. That we were speculating that was probably the case. So basically, we're not done and out with this bill yet, because there's a perfection process coming up where we need to change it back to the way it was. And so
change it back to the way it was and improve it a little bit.
Yep.
Specifically, Section 2 and Section 6 need to be wiped from it.
Okay. This is a very important bill. This is go ahead.
Add a Section 8
okay.
and make it say that from this day, mark a date in there of its enactment forward, pursuant to Article 1, Section 3 of the Missouri Constitution, law enforcement is banned from being in the process of the legislature in some way, shape, or form of writing it that way.
Yep. Any way you slice it, it's been neutered. It's kind of like SEPA without the teeth now. So
what do you think about? Sorry.
Go ahead, Casey.
What do you think about Section 4 on here? Notwithstanding any other provision of law to the contrary, a joint task force with a federal agency may transfer a seizure of property to the United States Department of Justice for forfeiture under federal law if the seizure includes U.S. currency that exceeds 50 grand. So in other words,
that was the point that I was talking about that changed. It was originally just straight up $100,000. Now it's
Yeah.
50 grand, and they include that they effectively follows the same kind of statutes as Section 1, which means that they can run through a proceeding and you can get it back, but the prosecutor can just say, oh, well, that's just better suited for the federal government anyway.
Yeah. So basically,
So,
the defendant will get no support from the state then, trying to
yeah.
get it back.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because the
Yeah,
state's trying to take your stuff. You have to then go to the state to try to convince them to let you keep your stuff. And of course, the state's going to turn it over to the feds.
Yep.
Yeah, this thing's got a few holes in it.
It's got more than
It
a
does.
few. This thing's been
It's
neutered. I mean, it's a
IC5.
dead bill as far as I'm
IC5
concerned,
big
unless it can be
holes.
perfected.
I see we need to fix the 5 holes that are in this and then apply that other amendment just to piss off the cops.
You know, the question is, who can we get in representative side there who can will step up during the debates or whatever and try to add some amendments?
I've already got someone in mind. We'll talk about that off screen. So
All right.
there's our. We'll work to talk to a couple of people, and then we'll talk about some amending during the perfection process. And I already have someone in mind. I think we'll do it. So all right. So basically, that's where we're at with this particular bill, guys. This one got hacked up, absolutely hacked up, and got neutered, and it is now teethless. It's toothless. And so we're going to have
to. We do have the ability to fix it.
We do have the ability to fix it, correct. And so that's what we're going to be working on. This is a very, very important bill, actually. So for, basically nullification of certain, federal activities within the state of Missouri. That's how important this bill is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and in the interest of time here, let's go to the next bill, HB 1992. This is one that we did talk about. I did a standalone video, and to make sure that people knew about it, and it's getting attention now. And so this one actually was voted out of committee after phone calls and emails were made, and that's you guys. I don't know anyone else, any other organization or anything that gave this thing any attention. So I want to say thank you to all of you out there that actually helped with actually furthering this bill. It was not changed, so it went through as is. So it's now on the informal perfection calendar. So what this means with this bill is we need to keep pushing it. We need to keep calling our reps and telling them we support this bill, HB 1992. For those of you who don't remember, this removes sales tax from food in the grocery store, edible items in a grocery store, anything that you can buy with food stamps. So that's the one here that we were able to help move along. So thank you to all of you. This is another great bill. Okay, the next bill, HB 2009. This is Susie Pollock's bill, having to do with basically immunization of kids and others, in the workplace, and basically having an exemption without having to go through a lot of legal or professional processes or going to your preacher, for the religious exemption. And this one is also this one's on the formal perfection calendar. Gosh darn it, I haven't researched this to find out what the date is scheduled for this, or when they expect to do it.
What's the bill number?
It is 2009.
2000.
I don't see a date scheduled.
You don't see a date scheduled? I didn't find one either, but it is on the formal. It went from informal to formal. So this one's moving.
Susie Pollock. All right.
The last action was March 30, placed back on formal perfection calendar.
Yep.
So it's guaranteed to come up. It just they haven't defined a date.
Yep, that's correct.
Informal just means they might bring it up if it gets enough attention.
Okay. All right, so that's where this one's at, and this is protecting our kids and our schools from having to take experimental vaccines. I'll say it like that. You know how YouTube is, gang, so I don't want to talk about this bill a whole lot right now. Okay, Next bill, HB 2118. That has seen some activity as well and is now on the informal perfection calendar. KC, do you have some information for us on this one?
Not at the moment. We're not any closer to finding out when it's going to be on there than we were when we had YouTube-a-thon.
Okay, gotcha. So you haven't heard from anyone in Jeff City on this?
No.
Okay.
And I've hit Plocker's office so many times, and they still ain't called back.
Okay.
I would say just keep calling that dude.
Okay.
If he's not going to put it, if he's going to keep it on the informal calendar or something, then we need to fill up his voicemails. Just annoy the out of him.
Yep, you bet. So we keep calling on HB 2118. We keep sending emails. Guys, I'm sorry I didn't say this is the Stand Your Ground Enhancement Act that basically closes any loopholes of presumption of guilt and having to prove innocence. So that's what this one deals with. We've talked about this one extensively on the channel. We've called about it too.
Being that this is on an informal calendar, I wonder if he's trying to stall this thing.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I meant more pressure can put it on the formal calendar. That's how these things work.
They ratchet it up.
Yep. So continue phone calls and emails. And by the way, we did an email campaign last night, but we'll talk about that when we're done going through the bills here. Okay, so next bill is HB 2704. Establishes provisions relating to marijuana, decriminalization of marijuana. And we have John with us today. So John, tell us what you did here in Jeff City here recently.
Oh, okay. So Tuesday I went to the rally, and I got to stay for about 2 hours. I got to speak to Representative Hicks, who's the author of the bill, the sponsor of the bill, and I knew already the decriminalization, legalization of recreational, removing it from the schedule altogether, also not going to be classified as a drug anymore. But the thing that was more important to me, now I don't like the war on drugs. I hate the war on drugs. I think putting someone in a cage for a plan is one of the most ridiculous things you'll ever see. But also in there, I asked him, I said, okay, so I'm seeing language on where it says, no one from the state shall pass your information on to any federal agency, federal employee, or unauthorized third party. So if you have a medical marijuana card now or in the future, and you go to buy a gun from a gun store, the little question on the application about having a medical marijuana card, that will also be dispensed with. That is none of their business. So anyone who has a medical marijuana card will be able to go to a gun store, won't have to answer that question. It will be omitted, and chances of you getting a firearm okay. But the feds won't get to
perjury on the internet.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry.
I can endorse perjury.
But it's the feds will not know the answer to that question, basically, because they're not allowed to know. So that, to me, that was as far as what we've done with SEPA, what you guys are trying to do with 2118. I think this is a very good addition to all those other things, because I think to say that someone who is using marijuana, especially for a pain or a chronic pain issue, a chronic illness of some kind, or cancer or what have you, to say, well, you can't own a firearm. I'm sorry, I don't know anybody that smokes the devil's lettuce and goes, I'm going to go blow my neighbor's head off because he's playing his Black Sabbath a little too loud. You're not going to see that. That's ridiculous. Yep. So that's what I know so far. And I do know that it passed. That's exactly right. It's not loud enough. It's not loud enough. I do know that it did go through the committee today, so it is set to hit the House floor. Christine Thompson did post that on Facebook today.
Okay.
Yes. However you answered that on the 4473 is up to you. That's all I can say about it.
Okay, so that bill is moving along. So it's voted to pass, and actually it passed committee today. And as far as we know, not a single change, nothing happened. As is, it voted to pass. So we should see some notes on that real quick, and hopefully it makes it to the formal calendar. I know there's been a lot of phone calls and emails on this bill.
Let me check something real quick, because I think there was a change. I think somebody posted that there was.
Actually, it's not listed here if there was.
It's not listed? Okay. Nope. I could have
No, it's
swore.
just the bill text is the same as introduced, and there's no markings of because I've got it pulled up right now. There's no markings of any kind of
Okay.
amendments listed, and usually they're lit. At least the amendments are listed as they're put in.
Okay. Now I do know something else that when Christine was up speaking at the rally, she said one thing they may try to work on as an amendment is the craft seed. So it would let it's not just the big business, but this is to get more mom and pops involved, for people to be able to use seeds and make hybrids or something like that without having to have some fancy, legal mumbo jumbo involved. So they were talking about adding craft seed to the bill if they got the opportunity. That's one amendment I know they had talked about adding to the bill.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so far so good on 2704. So decriminalization of marijuana, is making its way through the Missouri legislature for the first time, by the way. We have medical marijuana here in the state, but this is this actually covers recreational use, does it not?
Yeah,
Yes,
and growing whatever you
And
want.
growing
Yeah,
as well. So
up to 12 plants, I believe, is what the bill said. Up to 12 plants,
Okay.
I think.
Gotcha. And
You know what? If you think about this, almost all marijuana legalization bill or acts that got passed in most of the states have all been by what do you call it? Ballot initiative. Very few. I think Illinois voted it in. There might be one or two others. But if we can actually get this bill through, I mean, through the House and through the Senate, that would be up there. Because, like I said, usually it takes ballot initiative of people to force a vote on it. I mean, very, very few states have ever, got it through their legislatures. And if we can do this, boy, that'd be something else if you think about it.
Okay.
I know. I know. Even Mike Moon got up right at the end, and he said he hadn't made up his mind on the bill yet, but he did say, "Hey, I'm right down that way in room 225. Please come see me and talk to me. Help me make up my mind." So that was really cool of him to do that, to just get up and say, "Be honest," and said, "I haven't made up my mind, but this is where I'm at. Please come see me and talk to me. Tell me what you think."
So that's the Public Safety Committee that voted that out of their committee, right?
Right.
Yep.
I'm just trying to look at and see who voted yes and who voted no without looking it up first.
Yeah, it actually doesn't say that here.
I can look
because it was 5-4.
Was it
5-4?
Yep. It was 5-4 that passed. So narrow margin, but it did get through.
Huh.
I think I can look at the pictures and tell who said yes and who voted no.
Yeah. Out of the committee. Gotcha.
I got to tell you one.
A good little for after the live stream.
Okay, gotcha.
I got to tell you one funny story though. So I was talking to Casey Pemberton, and he and I had been chatting for a little while, and a rep, I don't know the rep's name, came up to him, and he's talking to Casey, and I heard him say, "What's this all about?" And Casey goes, "Oh, this is on cannabis freedom." And the change in his face, he got this really he just seized up, and he's like, and he walked away, and I go, what's that about? And he goes, "Oh, he's a Southern Baptist minister, but he's also a state rep." He said, "So as soon as I said cannabis, he was completely uninterested. He just walked away." I was like, "Well, you can't get them all. You can't get them all. Some of these people are old fashioned and they don't want to let go." But it was just funny to see the change in his face when as soon as the word cannabis left Casey's lips, it was an instant change, and I'm not interested in this anymore, and I'm going to walk away like I never saw this. It was kind of funny to watch.
Yeah, they can't get away from that old 1930s propaganda.
No, they can't. For madness.
Okay, we'll move on to the.
Hey, if you go on Amazon Prime, you can actually see all the old Reefer Madness clips and propaganda pieces. They have them on there, and it's actually hilarious that people bought into that.
It is. I went to a buddy's house years ago. We went outside. We might have partaken in the devil's lettuce. We walked back inside, we watched the whole film, and I looked at him and I said, how in God's name did anybody believe this crap? No one smokes that and gets on the piano and plays like they're trying to play Lamb of God on the piano. It's like super turbo mode. I'm like, I've never seen anyone high play the piano that fast. It's more Beethoven, like symphony maybe, but not like Lamb of God, Amon Amarth on the piano. I've just never seen that before in my entire life.
Perhaps the
was
devil's
hilarious.
lettuce
For
was a
everything, I might have
superpower.
to try it.
Okay, hey, and those of you on YouTube, we'll get to your comments here in just a second. We have one more bill, and this one, actually, we didn't promote on the site. We did it on the email campaign we did last night, but apparently this is already passed and it's gone into the Senate. We have not gone into Senate business yet this year. We're concentrating on the House right now, but literally this Sunday we'll be talking about the Senate. This is HJR 79. This modifies provisions for initiative petitions and referendums. The reason why this is important, and Casey Rich is going to chime in here in a second, is because what they're trying to do is make stricter requirements for you and I, as residents of Missouri, to actually create a ballot initiative. Let's just say that it's 7% of the voters in the last election. You have to collect signatures from 7% of the total amount of people who voted in the last election. What they're trying to do is double it. And so now it would be like 14 or 15% of the voters in the last election in order for myself or anyone in the state of Missouri to create a new ballot initiative. So KC,
And it has to be, what is it, 13 or like 13% of the voters in every district.
yes, in every district too. So so you can't concentrate on the cities. So which is how it's been done in many states before in the past. KC, you've done a lot of work on this. Now, apparently, we can't do anything on this in the House anymore. It's past the House. It's now in the Senate. So we're going to fight this starting Sunday night. We'll let people know what they can do and how they can proceed. But let everyone know what happened in the hearing that you went to, in the committee hearing.
Okay, well, this one wasn't in that committee. Those two were SJR 31 and I believe 37. One was sponsored by Onder and the other by Sandy Crawford, who also
that's
chaired
right.
that
You went to the Senate
local government elections
Okay.
committee.
Okay.
Yeah. So you still want me to talk about that, or we
absolutely,
just
because we'll actually go ahead and talk about your experience in the committee hearing.
Okay, well, basically, first of all, just give a brief synopsis of these two bills, or I guess resolutions. Basically, what they're doing, they're increasing the thresholds, like a certain percentage of voters you have to get. They'll raise it, or a certain number of districts you have to get those signatures out of. They raise them. And when you're going to get it on the ballot language, if this thing, if it passes through the
son of a gun.
it'll go on the ballot. I kept bringing it up to everybody that, what's happening here, you're basically making it impossible for the average person to be able to put something on the ballot. And there are reasons for doing it, because first thing when I got up, I knew what questions they were going to bring, because I talked so many people up there. So I just figured I'm just going to take, I'm going to do the Eminem thing. I'm going to take their questions and just, whatever they're throwing at me, and just take it there, basically take it away, and they got nothing to talk about. That's pretty much how I kept Honor out of it. But, because main thing they're worried about, they're saying they're doing this because you got out of state people like a George Soros or whatever to come in, put anything on the ballot. And they're saying by raising the thresholds, it'll keep them from doing it, which is nonsense. Because if anybody can jump through any hoops and have the money, it's those big organizations and stuff and come in here and do it. That's not going to stop them. But of course, by raising those thresholds, it's going to stop you and me and the average person. So that's the first thing I brought. Basically, all the reasons for it. Another one, they said, well, our Missouri Constitution keeps getting thicker and thicker and thicker with all the changes we make to it and everything. And, my answer to it was, I don't care if it gets thicker than a phone book. My right to have the ballot initiative is way more important. So basically, all the reasons they brought up, they're really weak reasons. And I just, struck them all down before they started. And they really didn't have much to say after that, except for Senator Bratton. I hate calling him out, but I actually like the dude, and so this legislation he's got, the bad legislation or bad comments is bad comments. He was basically saying, "Hey, I have to work hard to get elected." He says, you guys can do the same thing too. And basically, I said disagree with that. I mean, what I really wanted to say, I couldn't say because I would have got dragged out of there. But I mean,
That was
basically,
a stupid decision on his part.
yeah, I mean, it was basically a retard thing to say. Sit there and say, "Well, I got to work hard to be senator. You can work hard." That's not what our ballot initiative for. It's not based upon how hard he's got to work to run for office. It's based upon us being able to actually be able to use it.
Yep,
And
that's right.
they're making it impossible to use. And that's what I'm saying. And he was one of them that voted for it. In fact, it was all the Republicans in that committee voted for it. The 2 Democrats voted against it. So, everybody jumps on the Democrats. Well, hey, but it was right this time.
They have a good thought every now and again, particularly Missouri Democrats.
Yeah.
Okay,
They probably
gang.
said, "Oh man, this is going to backfire in their face if it gets out."
Yep. Let me recap here real quick before we go into a broader discussion. Basically, HB 1613 asset forfeiture. We're working on it. So yeah, in fact, there's a comment here from M. Gabriel. He said basically trash it. If they're going to do that to it, just trash it. It's our thought exactly. If we can't fix this, they should just drop it, as far as I'm concerned, because it's a toothless bill now. It's like SEPA without teeth.
Toothless bill. It's a toothless bill, and it'll take longer to actually try to change the toothless bill that got made law because people think it's real than it would be to just trash it and try again next year.
Yep. So we're on it. We're going to see what we can do, and I have a representative in mind that I think can help us. So that's where that one's at. 1992, and that one here is getting rid of sales tax on food in the grocery store. Please continue to make your phone calls on House Bill 1992. Phone calls and emails. Let's support this bill. Let's get rid of the tax in the grocery store, gang. This is a good
Yeah, this
move.
thing's really getting interest too.
Yes, it is. Thanks to all of you.
It's hard to sit there. It's hard to sit there and say, "Nah, man, keep taxes on groceries." I mean, you got both sides of the aisle starting to pay attention to this.
Yep.
Like Patrick was saying before, man, that thing was DOA. Now all of a sudden it's back to life.
Yep.
I do see one thing here that's kind of interesting. It doesn't seem to have gone anywhere, but HJR 129 proposes a constitutional amendment to grant the legislature the authority to veto Department of Transportation spending plans.
Wow. Okay. All right. We'll discuss that one in the after show. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just saw that. It was Brian Seitz, of course.
That sounds like a Brian thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, guys, continue your phone calls and your emails. HB 1992. Let's get rid of sales tax in the grocery store. HB 2009, Susie Pollock's bill. It's got legs. It's now on the formal calendar. We don't have a date. This one will prevent a mandatory vaccination of your child in public schools. Prevent. So this is a good bill. We like this bill, and we want it to go forward. HB 2009 deserves your attention as well. Emails and phone calls. HB 2118. That's the one we were talking about. It's still on the informal perfection calendar. Let's go ahead and keep supporting this one. This is another very important bill. Once again, the Stand Your Ground Enhancement or the Castle Doctrine Enhancement, depending on your point of view. Jared Taylor, the sponsor. Let's see, HB 2704, once again, needs support. This is decriminalization of marijuana. We need to end the war on drugs, gang. It's a failed war, and it's been very costly. Very, very costly, and it has failed. And
both financially and costing people's lives.
And culturally. It's a cultural failure, too, the war on drugs. So I agree with you, Caleb. And then HJR 79, and we did an email campaign on that. We didn't bring it up in a live stream, but that one's in the Senate now, so forget about that. We'll attack it in the Senate starting this Sunday. When we do our Sunday night broadcast, we'll be talking about these ballot initiatives. And that's all in the Senate right now, apparently. So we will address that on Sunday. Okay, that's the recap. And I will go ahead and put some show notes on for the bills that, and by the way, in the description section here when we start our conversation here, our bigger conversation. So you guys know what bills it is. And one more thing I'd like to say before we start the bigger conversation is we did do an email campaign last night, and that was on Discord, and which is where we're meeting right now. We actually got, just kind of got together and started doing emails. I got home late, so I started that late. So, and that's what I worked on. And I, basically I'd hate to put out a template because I did put out a template last night. Someone mistook it and used my exact template, which was my email that I was sending out, and they used my same exact email to send out. So we don't like to do it that way. We like you guys to change it, alter it, so it's specific and personal to you. Here's the point of doing an email. You guys have seen me do the phone calls, both during SEPA and now during, these campaigns. It's not enough to tell them what you want. You need to tell them why. And that's what the emails are really good for too. So when you email your representative or your senator in your state for supporting or, not supporting or specifically saying no to a bill, tell them why. Tell them why. That's important. That always matters. And during SEPA, it mattered too. Okay, all right, guys. We'll go to general discussion here real quick. I'm going to comb through the comments, and I'll bring up and hello to everybody who's commenting. By the way, I know you guys have been there. We just wanted to make sure to get the bills out of the way here before it got too late. But Gabriel's the one who was mentioning we should just go ahead and drop that civil asset forfeiture bill if we can't get it changed. We agree. We agree. So we don't need to discuss that. I mean, that's a dead deal as far as we're concerned if that cannot be brought back to life during the perfection process. And by the way, we have brought bills back to life before in the perfection process, so don't think it's impossible. It can be done. And I mean the state of Missouri, not us in particular. Let people be. Abu here. I don't know how to pronounce that. Welcome to you, by the way. Go ahead.
Hang on a second. Just a second. Let's see who that is. A Bury, I'm going to guess. Yep. That's her mom. She hopped in here.
Okay, gotcha. Well, welcome. Wonderful to have you here.
That's funny.
Let people be, she says. I have people I know that have died and some that have survived from drug addiction. Government needs to stay out. Marijuana shouldn't be classified as a Class A drug. Couldn't agree with you more. In fact, if the hemp industry were here, we'd be a whole lot better off too. Hemp clothing, you could do just about anything with hemp. What was very popular back in the 20s was rope made out of hemp. And it's much more costly to make rope today than it was, or the way we make it now than we did with hemp. And but at any rate, the hemp industry needs to come back. The paper industry is the one that did get rid of paper industry. The lumber industry is the one that did get rid of the marijuana industry back in the 1920s. By the way, by the way, you can find that online very easily. So we don't need to bring up that story. Voodoo Queen finished her emails, her second round of emails. God bless you, Voodoo. She is knocking it out of the park, gang. Voodoo Queen is an emailing machine.
She's like, what, 350 emails in the last 48 hours?
Something
He's
like
a
that.
Hall of Famer.
Yep, she sure is. Yep.
Does she have carpal tunnel now?
No. But
I don't know.
I'm guessing Voodoo is probably doing okay. She's probably a little sore, probably glad she got them done. And that's really cool, Voodoo, because you get 2 days of rest, maybe 3, before we start going to the Senate. But we'll be doing phone calls and emails there as well. And
they're working on her bronze statue up there in Jeff City right
yep,
now.
that's right. Yeah. You have a bronze statue erected in your honor as the most prolific emailer.
Bronze.
Yep. So that is really cool. Cross-eyed, she said. Okay. Warrior class. Let's see. Hello to you, warrior class. Edward. Okay. Edward Bowman says, I'm very interested in HB 2009. Let's revisit that for a quick second. And that one is the immunization one. That's Susie Pollak's, if I remember right. 2009, Susie Pollak's bill. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat for you so you guys can take a closer look at that. There you go. That is HB 2009. I just put it in the YouTube chat. And also, a lot of people here were commenting. One more thing. Rhode Island. Someone said something about Rhode Island is just a dumpster fire right now as they're getting rid of gun rights. Okay, it was M. Gabriel. Sorry I'm late. I was monitoring the anti-Second Amendment avalanche in Rhode Island in the Senate Judiciary. Be glad you're not there. Guys, we've had people move here from Rhode Island to get away from that nonsense out there. No kidding. In fact, I've met some of them personally, and they might even be watching the live stream tonight. Think you can. If you're there, chime in. Actually, I think he would have if he were here, because he would have seen that statement. He would have said, yeah, I got out of that place. And he moved right here to Missouri, by the way. And he cited, basically, I think what he told me, it was because of what we did with SEPA. And then Gregory Arunda is also a Rhode Islander. So hello to you, and welcome to the show here. Okay, gang, we got business out of the way, so it's time for general discussion. KC, go ahead.
I got one thing I want to bring up over on HJR 79.
Okay.
See what makes this resolution so sinister. It says, okay, the official ballot title of the amendment proposed in Section A shall be as follows. Here's what it's going to say on the ballot. It's going to say, shall the Missouri Constitution be amended to allow only citizens of the United States qualify as legal voters? Most people are really going to say, oh, yeah, sure. Require initiative petitions proposing to amend the Constitution to be reviewed by the voters in each congressional district. Most people are going to say, yeah, that's great. You get a chance to review it and everything. You know, who's going to have a problem with that? Then he'll say, and require initiative amendments to the Constitution to be approved by a 2/3 vote. Now, most people are going to get that mixed up with constitutional amendments. Say, oh, okay, 2/3 vote, right? There's nothing here. Here's what it's not going to tell you. Let's go back to the beginning. All right, the third paragraph, it'll say Section 50. Initiative petitions proposing amendments to the Constitution shall be signed by, used to be 8. They'll make it 10% of legal voters registered to vote in Missouri and citizens of the United States. And each of the, generally, you had to get 2/3 of the congressional districts. Now it will be, it's struck out and it says in each of, in other words, all the congressional districts now in the state, and petition proposing laws shall be signed by 5% of such voters. Okay. Then let's see, voters in each congressional district shall have the opportunity to review and comment. Okay, that's nothing wrong with that. I have no problem with people reviewing something I want to put up there. Okay, but what it says here is where they said 2/3 of the vote, and I said people probably get that mixed up with a constitutional amendment. This is for any ballot initiative. It's generally just a simple majority.
So even
this bill is going to make it 2/3.
Okay,
and nobody's going to understand that.
Yep. So, like for instance, if we wanted to, I'm not talking a constitutional amendment here for this. If we wanted to remove Parson as governor, go ahead.
Okay, what I'm saying, though, is just for any ballot initiative, it's generally a majority vote, but this resolution is going to change it to 2/3. When it says 2/3 on there, it's not saying that it's raising it. It's just saying 2/3, and people are going to get that mixed up with constitutional amendments that they're voting on.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? They're not showing you all the things they're raising and that stuff. It's just, it just shows, it's going to be under public scrutiny, and everybody's going to look at it and say, oh, yeah, that's great. And then that 2/3, they're going to get it mixed. They're just going to be thinking like constitutional amendment, and they're not going to understand that's being raised also. Mm-hmm. Like I said, this bill, is talking about putting it under public, scrutiny, I guess, so everything's on the up and up. And yet here they're not even mentioning all the things they're going to do to it mm-hmm. when it's on the ballot language. So, that's whoever put these up are just, they shouldn't have. Let's just put it out. I'll just be nice because we're trying to get people to vote for us for our legislation. I mean,
I just looked through all the HJRs, and I wrote down the numbers of all the HJRs that look to modify petitions and constitutional amendments and how they work, and it's 133, 132, 130, 112, 103, 102, 91, 88, 79, 76, 75, 74, 71, 68, and 65 are all looking to
Yeah.
modify.
Yeah.
That's not even counting the Senate joint resolutions or any House bill or Senate bill. It's insane.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think I've ever seen this kind of assault on our ballot initiative before.
Yep.
Not
No.
this kind of number.
Do you guys
That's
think it was?
crazy.
Do you guys really? How many of you who have been in these discussions with us? When I was talking publicly about changing the Senate in the state of Missouri with a ballot initiative to represent land as opposed to population, much like we do in the United States government, we didn't see those ballot initiatives until that came up. I wonder if. I wonder.
I don't know.
It is
There's another
strange.
one that's about to go.
Well,
There's another one that's about to go to the Senate as well. It's on third read. It's HJR 70 from Bishop Davidson.
yeah, I mean, some of these that it's coming from is it just makes you scratch your head, man.
Well, it's not just that; it's the sheer quantity of them, and from the House and the Senate, it's weird.
But when you're saying what might have caused it, what's strange is going back to that hearing I was at when Senator Onder was up there talking about his bill. One of the things he said was, a lot of states don't even have ballot initiatives. I mean, if you want to translate that, he's basically saying, hey, we shouldn't have them either. We don't, you know what I'm saying?
We should
compete
compete with other states
for
less
saying.
Freedom. Yeah, no, thank you, Mr. Onder.
And then you got to look at what he put in that ballot initiative, and unfortunately, it got passed by that committee. But I haven't seen it go. It hasn't been assigned to any other committees yet. Neither one of those two. That's SJR 31 or 37, and hopefully they don't. But this HCR is in that committee right now. HJR 79, and that's already been through the House. So that's the fastest one going right now.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy, man. That actually went through to the Senate in February. So, gosh darn it. I mean, I doubt it had any co-sponsors. That's a joke, by the way. Because House or HJR basically stands for those you don't know. It's a House Joint Resolution. And these are bills that they do themselves, and they shuttle through themselves, and the people rarely know about them, and they go by super fast. And in this particular instance, unfortunately, these are for making it much more difficult for us to get something on the ballot. For us, you and I, the regular common folk. So we're going to fight that in the Senate, and we're going to start that on Sunday. Keep making your phone calls. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, what kind of foreshadowing is it that here in Missouri we have a General Assembly that gave us a gas rebate, even though we voted no on gas tax 3 times? Mm-hmm. We keep pushing for cannabis, and when we finally vote yes for it, they completely botch it and almost stall it and ruin it. And now they're trying to hold up how we get things on the ballot. So they don't even want us to circumvent us. They don't want us to be able to circumvent them, because they're prepared and ready to cram things down our throat that we don't want.
It seems
so
that
we really
way.
need to look at that.
Yep. And
they want to make the laws. They don't want us making the laws.
Sunday night,
basically it.
Yep, Sunday night's going to be dedicated to that, gang, by the way. We have to attack these initiatives, and it looks like they're all in the Senate right now.
Even though every attempt to do that is a violation of Article 1, Section 3.
Okay. Well, we'll attack that on Sunday night, so we'll bring that in. This is an important, and that's the thing. I had lots of emails back, once again, email campaign last night, and I did talk about, the House Joint Resolution 74. And the fact of the matter is, everyone that I heard back from said, I agree with you 100%. That shouldn't be going through. So, but that's only about 4 people that commented back to me about that issue. And lots of emails were sent last night, by the way. I want to say thank you to Ken is here with us, and thank you very much, man. He says he's listening in. He is the guy I was talking about that moved here from Rhode Island, and I do believe it was because of SEPA, because of what we got done here in Missouri. And Warrior Class 3 mentions, I moved to Missouri from Houston, Texas, after fighting so long for constitutional carry in Texas. Was also a Ron Paul delegate for the 2020 or 2012 primary. Texas is way behind Missouri. Finally gave up on Texas. I can't agree with you more. A lot of folks, I don't know what it is, but a lot of folks seem to think that Texas has more gun rights than Missouri. That simply is not true. I don't know how people think that. But you are 100% right. We are light years ahead of the other states on that issue. On gun rights for the residents, we are light years ahead. So my state and federal reps here in Missouri are far more responsive to me than the ones in Texas were. Yes, they are really good here. And Edward Bowman says, my friends and I have tried for years to ballot initiative with no success. Our SOS, a Republican, fought us every time. So the Republicans were even fighting them. So that's what we're dealing with here. And that was part of what Casey Rich's story was for actually appearing at the committee hearing. He was fighting Republicans, gang. And this was in the Senate, though. But it doesn't matter. We're fighting Republicans on this issue, too. But remember now, there's always, 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 always hope on these issues. Because even if these ballot initiatives go through in the state of Missouri, they go on the ballot. So we still get to vote on whether or not those go through. So at any rate, we still have hope on that area too if we can't stop our own Senate and House from stopping these insane initiatives. So there is hope. Please don't give up hope on that. Don't think Missouri's done for. The people haven't spoken yet. Hopefully it doesn't get to the people, but if it does, the people will speak and they'll probably say no, especially once we educate them. So, and thank you very much for chiming in on that, Robert. My thoughts were exactly the same, but actually I'm hoping to interview someone actually in the House on that very same issue you just brought up. Why are there so many ballot initiatives going through this year? What is up with that in so many different ways? It's weird.
You know, and there's something else too, and I did see oh, what was gonna say? I did see something about a week ago from a St. Louis Today article. Usually I don't pay attention to that, but it was talking about these ballot initiative things. And so I looked at it for a minute, and it actually said that they're doing it again, which tells me they've been trying to do this for however long. I know they mentioned several years they tried exactly this. So.
Okay. Well,
Boy, they seem really bent on doing it this year.
Yep. Okay. Well, guys, we fight it. I meant we fight it. That's what we do. And so we'll on Sunday, gang, we'll be prepared to let you know about every single one of them that's currently in the Senate. I didn't realize the House one was in the Senate when I was doing my emails last night. It was passed through the House 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And so that's a done deal. So, oh well, we'll fight it in the Senate. So we'll start talking about the Senate on Sunday. But remember now, emails and phone calls on our, our current bills. And I will, like I said, I'll put those bills in the description section down below here while we continue our conversation. Actually, I can do that now. So, all righty. Guys, is there anything I'm forgetting? Basically with you guys watching on YouTube, this is how we do it. And this is the way it can be done in every state. And it's wonderful to have Ariel here because Ariel is actually doing the same stuff in another state. We need more people actually, fighting for freedom instead of fighting on a keyboard, on Twitter, by creating memes or, just saying how much you hate the Biden administration. Don't worry about
Although
the Biden.
memes are a good way to spread information.
I get that. They're funny and they're a great way to spread information. But just think if that effort was going into making phone calls, emails, and pressuring your state representation as opposed to creating memes all the time. That's all I'm saying. And so this is why Ariel is, kind of a wonder and very, very nice to have you on, by the way. We need more people like Ariel. That's what we need. We need people that
I appreciate it.
You betcha. The young, you have the passion, you have the energy. And so basically, and clearly you've got the Liberty bug, just like the rest of us do here.
For sure.
Yep. So
I agree with you 100%. We need fewer keyboard warriors and more liberty warriors.
Yep, I agree. And once again, I know that will probably make some of my friends on Twitter angry that I've said that, but it, I do, guys, at the rate they're trying to clamp down, look at what we're dealing with in Missouri here, these ballot initiatives. And once again, we haven't talked about that a lot on the live streams, but holy mackerel, are we hitting that on Sunday, because it's a bigger problem than we knew just a month ago. And so we need to address this at least the best we can. Now,
another note too.
Yeah.
Another note too. That Liberty Warrior doesn't mean go beg the courts either.
Yep, that's right. That's right. I agree.
It means inflict political pressure on your politicians. That's the only way they'll listen to you.
Yep. Okay.
And to point out, that's why they're trying to restrict our ballot initiative process, is because they're trying to clamp down on us. They're supposed to be a representative. They're supposed to be our liaison. Why would your representative or your liaison hinder you from being able to be you're supposed to be consensual when it comes to being governed. So our representatives are actually taking active steps to squeeze us out. Why do they want to be the only channel? And we got to be careful on bottlenecking ourselves to where our legislation just bottleneck towards strictly through them. That's dangerous.
Robert, that's a good point. And just remember what Senator Onder told our good friend Casey Rich. Well, I had to work hard to become a senator. You work hard for a ballot initiative.
That was Bratton.
I'm sorry.
That was
You're right.
Bratton that said
I'm sorry,
that.
Bratton. I'm sorry, Bratton.
Onder said there's a lot of other states in the U.S. that don't have ballot initiatives. Like he was hoping Missouri would be one of them.
When I work my way up there to Jeff City, I'm going to have to remind that guy, because he's my senator. I'm going to have to remind that guy that he's the subordinate, according to Article 1, Section 3. Because the legislature and the police are the subordinate of the civil power, according to.
How he says something along the lines of, let's see if I can quote it verbatim. He says that other states don't even have a ballot initiative. That almost says like, does that sound like let them eat cake?
It does sound a bit like let it eat cake.
I mean,
sounds like that, but what he's really saying is, man, those other states don't have it. Be nice if we didn't have it here.
Yeah.
And by raising these thresholds, they could basically not have it here, yet they're just say, well, hey, you got a ballot process here. They're just, they're not going to let people know that they've raised the thresholds to make it harder and harder. That's basically what they're trying to do. They're trying to not have a ballot initiative for the average person without taking it away. Technically it's still there. And the thing is, the stuff where they're like, worried about the out-of-staters and stuff like that who have endless amounts of money and organization, they're never going to raise it enough for them to, they'll always be able to jump through the hoops. So it's really, I guess basically, who knows, maybe like an Amazon or something wants to try and shove a ballot initiative down our throat, that'd be all right with them, because no matter what they do, tweak that ballot initiative, those guys can always do it. But as far as the average person, they're basically just trying to crush us underfoot.
Yeah, it's a trap. It's a trap.
Just a little bit.
The thing that I've heard on even supposedly normally liberty-minded people on the radio, I've heard them say, well, isn't it a little too easy to change the Constitution? And then I think Onder said there was this fear that, these liberals will get in and change the Constitution willy-nilly, or change, all these silly things, as if to say, we don't trust you with that kind of power. We don't trust you to make the decisions that are right for you. Let us do that. Years ago, I saw an article in Illinois. It was on seatbelt laws for those who are in the back seat. They were changing some language or adding something to the seatbelt law. One of the state reps said, and I quote, "If we're not telling people how to live their lives, we're not doing our job." Now, that's in Illinois, but that does not mean that mentality does not hold true in the state of Missouri as well. For some of these guys, they think they have to tell us how we make our decisions and what decisions that we're capable of making, and they'll make the rest of them for us, and that's a little insulting to our intelligence.
It reminds me of the
Well-
weather podcast or weather guys in Minnesota. You know, they say this. It doesn't matter. Pick a channel: ABC, CBS, NBC, the local affiliates. It's going to be cold outside tomorrow, gang. Dress warmly. You get that
But hey, going
every
back-
single. You know.
Going back to what you said about Onder, you know, the thing where he's trying to say, well, you know, liberals can pass legislation and stuff through that ballot initiative. They're just trying to put fear into you. So you say, oh, we don't want that. Let's take
Right.
it away. But that's stupid. I'll take my chances with my fellow citizens. I mean, nobody agrees with me 100% on anything anyways. But I'd rather present my case to them and, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Try to convince them one way or the other than having some people up there who are this much closer to, let's say, the money people or whatever,
Mhm.
for lack of a better word at the moment. I'd
Ulterior
rather take my
motive.
chances with my fellow citizens, than with them and them, because, you know, if they want to crush that out of you, I don't care what kind of reasons they're giving you. They're just trying to give you those reasons to take it away. Screw that, man. I'll take my chances with my fellow citizens.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would trust the guys down the street from me that I may not know very well way more than most politicians or anyone in a political office, because there's always some, you know, the power, power breeds corruption. It's for a lot of them. And these people around here, for the most part, they don't have any power over me unless they're using force. So I would trust them more to make decisions, and like you said, present your case to them rather than having to present it to somebody that's probably slightly corrupted or way corrupt, you know, something to that effect.
Or looking to get to that, you know, get higher up, you know, because the higher up you go, it's like the further away you get from the people, and the more time you're going to spend with the people trying to get you up there.
Right.
That's why by the time you get to the federal government, it's just like, you know, dumpster fire
Yep.
at that point.
For the record, I'd like to say, as someone who spent a lot of time in Jeff City in the last 3 years, there are some good people up there, really good folk up there.
Yes.
So just so we have that, you know, we know that there's some not so good people up there too. And this is what's different about us, our organization, what we're doing on YouTube. We want the best state humanly possible in the state we live in, Missouri. But we do acknowledge we have problems here. We do have problems here, but we can't solve them until we shine lights in the darkness. So we will expose, you know, basically to the best of our ability, these issues. Law enforcement continuing to come into this, the federal government coming in through law enforcement into our legislature is a problem. And that civil asset forfeiture bill is another direct evidence. It's not indirect, it's direct evidence of it. And hopefully these guys can see through it up in Jeff City, because I don't know what to say about that. Coming out of committee, it's slaughtered like that, Caleb. I mean, you know, it was a great bill going in, and it came out completely neutered. And then they passed it neutered.
It still had a couple holes going in. Well, but it was still much better than they made it.
Well, so
You know,
go ahead.
I was going to say, one thing that I found covering civil asset forfeiture, an article that's been several months ago. I love the word screw that the feds play, because they don't call it asset forfeiture. They call it the equitable sharing program.
Yep.
So I love the word screw, though. So you
Yep.
take those words out, people don't pay attention anymore. It's like, it's the same damn thing. It's just certain states have chosen to make new rules on it, and to make an end around on those rules, well, we'll do a word screw here, and then people won't pay attention because it's no longer civil asset forfeiture, even though it is. But I love the word screw that the feds like to play.
Yep. Yeah. Well, some people call it, crap. Some people call it fertilizer, you know.
Tell you what, call it equitable sharing to that gun shop owner up there in Sunrise Beach.
Yeah, that's
See what
right.
he thinks about it.
Oh yeah, Ike Skelton's brother.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
What's going on with that case? I haven't heard anything.
As far as okay, so I'm friends with Ike Skelton on Facebook. As far as I know, and it was a few months back, I heard they got their computers and stuff back.
Not
and
the
I don't
guns
know
yet,
what it
though.
went from there, but Yeah, they haven't given the guns
Uh-uh.
back, but that's the ATF. They'll never do that. It's just, oh well, we'll
It'll
give
be
them back to you eventually.
3 or 4
No,
years
they never
ago. This
will.
is inventory. This poor guy's going out of business. I mean, that's all of his
Yeah.
inventory they took.
But they did file some charges on him a while back, didn't they?
Yeah, but they got the computers back, which tells me
Okay.
that things were dropped, but they don't care. They're still going to do. There's, you know how
Trying to
the
hang on to guns. Yeah.
equitable sharing, the whole thing. Of course, they're going to do it without Missouri because Missouri police can't help them, but they're already under the direct purview of the ATF because they signed in the dotted line as an FFL.
Let me ask
Yeah,
Eric.
going back to this.
Oh, go ahead, Casey Rich.
Going back to this bill that's been shot full of holes now. Yeah, you can see why we really need it, because even this guy, because up to that time, what they basically entrapped the dude. I
Yes,
mean,
they
if you
did.
follow the story, I'm not going to go into all that. Basically, he got entrapped. They take all of his stuff away. I guess now he fights a little bit, and they realize they're probably not going to win it, so they give him back his computers and stuff. But they're still going to hang on to those guns as long as they can. That dude's probably going to have to practically sue to get it back. And so when somebody thinks, oh, asset forfeiture, you have to understand something. They take that stuff before you even go to trial. All right. And even if you don't go to trial, good luck trying to get it back. And the thing about this is with this asset forfeiture and all this stuff, when I talk to the ATF liaison, or I guess they call him the guy who handles the, I keep saying propaganda, the media. I guess he's like a media rep. But anyway, I was talking to him about this, and I was like, why did you guys go raid him when you didn't get a warrant? And he said, well, the judge gave us permission. Even though they knew it was just like that one little thing. I mean, it's like, why'd you go and take it? I said, it's because the judge gave us permission. He's not worried about the Constitution or your rights or anything else. If they can get the say so to do it, they're going to do it. That's just the nature of the beast. That's the same thing with SEPA. They want to take the enforcement mechanism about it, because they don't care about your rights. They don't care about your Second Amendment, no matter what they say publicly. They want to go back doing what they're doing. That's just like with 2118, right, self-defense. They're trying to stop that. They don't care whether you're guilty or innocent up there. They just want the power. They keep saying, they care about Constitution, all that, but it's nonsense. You would think they wouldn't be fighting 2118 because burden of proof is supposed to be on the state. But nah, man, they're up there trying to stop it because they want it to be on you. They don't care about your rights or nothing. None of them do. That's, like I said, it's the nature of the beast. That's why, they can't be trusted, and they need to be cut loose, man. If we got, like I said, we got to find somebody who can try and add some amendments to this, to that bill, and see if we can't get it back to where it was, and then try and get it out into the Senate.
Well, it needs to be back to where it was and then some.
Yeah.
Let me ask Ariel a question here real quick.
That's a long time ago.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Ariel, you've heard us talk quite a bit about SEPA. I'm sure you know what the Second Amendment Preservation Act is and what we've done here in Missouri. I just saw someone in the chat saying that basically your concealed carry bill is all but done. It's pretty much through the Senate now. That, because of your guys' work, you got it done. Are you guys putting SEPA on your radar down there? Are you guys talking about it? Even preliminary talks or anything? That's the next logical step after
really,
concealed carry.
To be honest. So the organization that I'm working with, Young Americans for Liberty, is a national organization. It's not based in Louisiana. It's actually got headquarters in Texas. So they work with, pushing for liberty-oriented legislation all across the country. And there are certain bills that they work on. Constitutional carry is one that they've been working on for a while. They have also done others, such as some vaccine choice bills in various states, as well as school choice bills. They're working on a school choice bill in Virginia this year. Unfortunately, that one was not successful. But there are certain bills that they will push for. And so far as I know, the Second Amendment Preservation Act has not been one of them so far. That could be something that they look at in future. I'm not really involved with those decisions. I'm not that high up in the organization. But as far as I know, it's not currently on the organization's radar as far as something that they want to work for in the near future, but it certainly could be in the future.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I meant just from, this perspective from being in Missouri and everything, I got to tell you, nothing pisses off the federal government more than getting a good SEPA bill done. So, that's just between us, okay? Don't tell anyone.
Oh God.
I would love to see one in every state.
So at any rate, that's one
They are.
that's putting your finger in the government's eye every time when you get a SEPA bill done with teeth. But we need another state to have it. So shoot, if you have any say, if you can write a letter to someone or make a phone call and put a bug in someone's ear, that's the next logical step after getting constitutional concealed carry. By the way.
For sure, we'll
Yep.
see.
Okay.
Now I do
And
have to
if you
hop
do
off
get
now,
one of those
unfortunately.
started, let me know.
I'm sorry, Ariel. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that unfortunately I do have to leave right about now, but thank you guys so much for allowing me to join you tonight. This has been great. I've loved hearing about everything going on in Missouri. I'm so glad that y'all have so many liberty-focused bills moving forward through the legislature, and I'm glad that there's a strong network of people all over the country who are working to make liberty a reality. So y'all keep up the good work, and I will talk to you later.
Thank you very much, Ariel. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Catch you later.
Okay.
Okay.
I just want to add something on this whole the law enforcement thing. People wonder why libertarians push privatization of the police. Well, when you're trying to pass bills like SEPA or Stand Your Ground or anything, and you see these law enforcement, these sheriff's associations, police chief associations coming in and fighting these bills to keep them at bay, to stall them out or testify against them. It's not a stretch to go, now maybe I understand why libertarians want a privatized police force. At least some of them do. That is one of the, seems to be a platform in the Libertarian Party, is privatization of a lot of things. Well, it's not hard to jump to that when you see things like what some law enforcement agencies are doing now. As many prosecutors and sheriffs whined and complained about SEPA when it passed. I mean, you thought they went around and kicked every puppy and pushed every old lady down in the street that they could find when this passed. So it is funny that people go, I don't understand. Why does libertarians hate law enforcement? It's because they don't hate them. They don't trust them because they're an arm of government. And when you see organizations like them pushing against good Second Amendment laws like you guys got done here in Missouri with SEPA, it's not a stretch to understand why they push for privatization sometimes.
I would like to take a moment to mention that I'd like to see the sheriffs instituted into the Missouri Constitution and them actually have a constitutional role in Missouri when it comes to upholding the U.S. Constitution and our Missouri Constitution. I think the sheriffs really fail. If you look through the Missouri Constitution, nothing covers the sheriff's office, and we should think about.
They need to be.
Go
They
ahead.
need to be banned from having unions as well.
Yeah, ban them from unions and make their job duties strictly to secure constitutional rights, natural rights, and take them out of their normal police role and actually make it to where they're more like a county constitutional enforcer. And they're the ones that when I have a complaint against my local department or somebody for violating my rights, I can turn to them and they can launch an investigation and push things. When a prosecutor refuses to listen to one of your cases, or the judge is corrupt, because we do have corrupt judges, we got somebody that's bound to uphold and do what they're supposed to do because that's their job. And I bet you a lot of people would stop running for it when their job duties actually defined in a different way.
Yep. And I don't know, that seems to make sense to me. I mean, I know a lot of sheriffs in Missouri, and I got to tell you, there's very few of them that are Embley Post. I guess that's the only way I'm going to say it tonight. There's very few of them that are Embley Post. And that's just what I have to say about that. I wish there were more.
And what Warrior Class says, if city police chiefs were elected like the county sheriff, we could rein them in, which, where I live in Owensville here, we have a city marshal, so he is elected. But several towns around us, they are an appointed post. And so they are more likely to do the bidding of the alderman and the mayor than be beholden to the people.
Mhm.
And there we had I think he was a chief of police. He might have, yeah, he was chief of police in a neighboring town. Now, when he was in that job, he literally, anytime he got a new officer, he handed them the Constitution. He said, "Read it and know it. Bill of Rights, everything." And apparently, a drug task force came into that town at one point. And he said there were like 2 or 3 black SUVs filled with guys, and they were going into a mobile home. So he shows up. He calls his deputy, or he calls his other officers in, and he said, "Now I want you to get all the reserve officers over here because these guys are going to leave." He said there's like 20 of them trying to fit in a mobile home. He's like, "Why are you cramming 20 guys in here for a warrant?" He's like, "I can go in there and bring him out way more peacefully than what you guys will do." He said they ended up leaving. He said, you're not coming in and doing this. I'm running you off because all you're going to do is escalate the situation." He's the only one that I've known and anywhere close to me that's done anything to that nature. Most time they're like, "Oh yeah, you guys are going to bust somebody? We'll be right there. We'll help you out." Because money. But
Yep.
that wasn't his concern. His concern was for this person's, civil liberties or constitutional rights. And it was just nice to see that someone had that kind of belief system where, yeah, even when the feds came in and did stupid stuff, he's like, "Out you go." It ticked them off to no end. They were not happy. But he's like, "You're not doing that in this city. You can go do that somewhere else where, they'll be willing to help you. But here, out you go." So it was a good thing to see. And it's sad that he's moved on to something else, but it was a good thing to see.
And I'll tell you, my sheriff went to prison. I'm in Christian County, so yeah, he did some time. Yeah, and he was prosecuted and all that fun stuff. So that was my sheriff.
Oops.
So yeah, oops, that's
and then
right.
you got something just as bad there too, right? Wasn't it the mortician that took his place?
Yes, that's Brad Cole. Yeah. So well, he had to because he's the next person in line when the sheriff goes to prison. Apparently, oddly enough, I didn't know that until it happened.
Replaced by the Undertaker.
Yeah, I know. I figured the undersheriff, automatically steps up. No, apparently it's the Undertaker that takes over, and then he got reelected. So we still have him.
So
but
what? I mean, instead of interrogating, he just executes them, and then he's like, when they're dead, he's like, "Well, I'll kill you, and then I'll fix you up and make you look pretty for your funeral." That's creepy.
Yeah.
Oh God, that is creepy.
That's pretty bad. And you know what? It's Brad Cole has not impressed me. And Brad Cole, and he could be watching, for that matter, and that's okay. Because
God. what is that movie where like it has Liam Neeson in it? It has and he's like an Undertaker and all that. Oh God, I can't remember it reminds me of that.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen a movie like that before.
Hang on.
Liam Neeson, though, he played Qui-Gon Jinn in The Phantom Menace, so I do know of the actor.
Okay.
And Taken, he played the lead role in Taken. That was a great movie.
Yep.
Camden County, Flyover State is chiming in. Hello, welcome. And we're winding down right now, gang. We're going to end this here pretty soon. If you guys have any questions about the information we presented tonight, just to let you know, if you guys do a refresh on this, if you check the description section, you now have access to all the relevant bills that we talked about tonight. And remember now, we need to keep calling and emailing on this stuff, with the exception of HJR 74, because that's in the Senate now. That's not in the House anymore. And then the Civil Asset Forfeiture Bill, and that was the bill number, my memory's terrible, 1613. 1613 got hacked up a little bit. So we need to see what we can do with that and make sure we can fix that in perfection before we support it. So as soon as we have a possible solution for it, we can make phone calls again for the adaptation of that solution. And so we'll see what we can do.
The movie is a 2009 movie called Afterlife.
Okay. Okay.
Just looked it up. I had to remember. I couldn't help it. I had to look it up.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Brad Cole would be that kind of guy though, but I do know that he rejected SEPA, and he used all the same dried up old arguments about SEPA, and I publicly addressed that in a video along with Sheriff Arnott in Greene County, but they were against SEPA, and I don't forget that. I don't forget that. And by the way, Arnott retracted his statements about SEPA. Brad Cole, as far as I know, did not. But also, Brad Cole, if I'm not mistaken, sits on the board of the Missouri Sheriff's Association. I think that's a fact.
I'm
And,
not surprised.
so, yeah, there's a little bit of conflict there. Federal money. Federal money changes you, folks. If and when you ever get elected into public office. We have someone with us right now that's running for public office, and that's Robert Smith. You guys have been hearing him tonight. If and when you ever get elected, and if you run, literally run away from that federal money. It changes you, and it changes the people around you. I mean, it's the cookie jar. It's the cookie jar, and people just can't resist. And that's what happens with basically with the federal influence into law enforcement. It's money. It's money, gang. It's pure and simple. Follow the money. And that's why
I do know that.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just finishing my thought. I know that's why SEPA is under attack, is federal funding. That's why SEPA is under attack, and I'll bet you my bottom dollar, Caleb and I have worked on this. I'm pretty sure the federal money is influencing the civil asset forfeiture bill, too. Elimination of civil asset forfeiture. I shouldn't say civil asset forfeiture bill.
Yep.
That's a misrepresentation. But federal money, gang, does a lot of horrible things, unfortunately, and it happens in every state. It's not just Missouri. It's not just here. Okay, go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that when I got my stimulus check, that I started going up and down the street and demanding more demanding more money from people, because I started feeling that federal influence, and I was like, hey,
yeah.
I need some of your paycheck and your paycheck and your paycheck, because I got bills to pay. I got people to bribe and things to do. So, I got that federal feeling in me. Started welling up, and I'm like, I got to push this down.
Yep. Did you have to get on medication to make it go away, or did it go away on its own, or how did that happen?
I think my wife did a frying pan boogie on me.
It's frying. Okay, gotcha. All right. I was just wondering if the pharmaceutical companies got involved in that.
Nope.
Because they make a lot of money too,
Oh yeah.
Mine went straight to a new gun, so.
Oh, there you go. That ticks them off. They're like, oh, what'd you spend your stimulus money on? Another firearm. Like, oh.
Okay. All right, gang. Do we have any?
If they're going to be all socialist about the general welfare clause, and technically they should be paying for being part of the militia,
There you go.
Exactly.
Hey, do you got it? Let's see. Hardest job educating the public in the principles of freedom. That's correct. That is a hard job because you're fighting against the public school systems. You're fighting against the mainstream media. You're fighting against government. Nothing is harder than fighting the government when it's just constant, never-ending, authoritative denial of the truth. And it comes from the mainstream media, government, pharmaceutical companies. It doesn't matter. And that is really, really rough for some people to wrap their brains around the fact that the government lies more than it tells the truth, that the pharmaceutical companies lie more than they tell the truth, that the mainstream media lies. In fact, since the beer flu, I think there is more lies in the mainstream media than there is truth. Whereas before the beer flu, I would have said that there was actually more truth than lies in the mainstream media.
I don't know about that.
The latter, the former of the two has always been true.
Yeah. So, yeah, great show, y'all. Thanks.
Hey, it rhymes.
Yep. And thank you all for showing up. If you guys have any questions about anything, just throw them in the chat here real quick as they're kind of winding down. And as always, we will stay here in Discord for the next half hour. And once the camera goes off, the hair goes down, and then we can actually talk, we can talk about other stuff that YouTube won't let us talk about.
Hey, before we jump off, I wanted to mention about the recreational and the decriminalization bill for cannabis coming up.
Okay.
How is it that the majority of the population is not mad that lives were ruined, taken, people were killed over laws that are based off of lies and propaganda?
Because the memory hole.
We were not told the truth about it. They passed these laws based off of lies and propaganda, and we're actually having a hard time. Our Congress members in the General Assembly and on the U.S. side are having a hard time figuring out this issue that's just so simple and easy, right?
Yep.
And we need to press them, and you need to replace them, because these people that have been in office for longer than 2 years, they're the problem, guys. And the ones that have the voting record, you can see how they vote. They're the problems. You can see who's the ones doing what they're supposed to be doing. You can see who's not. And so as constituents, we can't get tricked into believing somebody's the good guy when in reality, their voting record will show you different. So we really got to pay attention to that, because our politicians are enforcing laws. Our police officers, the sheriffs, the ATF, the FBI, these people are enforcing laws that were written off of lies and propaganda. So,
And directly contradict and lies and propaganda surrounding the meaning of the Constitution, because I mean, you look at 1920s when they went to ban alcohol, they realized they had to amend the Constitution in order to do that.
yep,
Nowadays, they just do it
Yep.
regardless.
That's right.
None of it, there is nothing in Article 1, Section 8, or any part of the Constitution that allows them to do any such thing or regulate or controls. I'm not going to use regulation because regulation means to make efficient. Place controls on you, your life, and your property.
yep.
Okay. Well,
I think the funniest. Oh, I'm sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
go ahead, John.
I was going to say, I think the funniest thing about marijuana or the whole gateway drug argument that they've used for marijuana for years. It's like you all put it on Schedule 1 with all these other dangerous drugs. Now, a lot of people in their youth will try it and they'll be like, oh, I'm not, my hair's not falling out. I'm not tripping and not going mad, any of these things. So if they lied to me about this, what else have they lied about? They created the whole issue of the supposed gateway by lying to kids in schools all across the country for years, saying, oh, marijuana is really dangerous. They try it, figure out it's not dangerous, which leads them to think other things are not. So maybe the problem isn't marijuana. Maybe, like Robert said, it's the lies. You told them it was that dangerous. They found out otherwise, and you've actually caused the problem that you were supposedly trying to keep from happening is because of a lie and how marijuana was scheduled to begin with.
You know, the irony about it, there's a lot of other things also that are naturally derived that are also not dangerous. But then once those became regulated, then people tried to find ways around it and cut things. And then you have other things now that exist that are incredibly dangerous.
Absolutely.
Warrior Class 3 has a great comment. Why didn't the war on drugs require a constitutional amendment like the one on alcohol? And that's exactly what we just talked about. The fact is, it's kind of like how we don't declare war anymore in the United States. Because if we declare war, the War Powers Act goes into effect and we have to start hanging traitors. Well, in World War II, we had lots of traitors. They were businessmen, big businessmen in the United States, politicians in the United States. And that's why we don't declare war on nations anymore. So we don't bring in the War Powers Act, and we don't have to hang our businessmen in the United States and our politicians and our bankers. So it's the same thing with the reason why they don't, do the war on drugs with a constitutional amendment. There's no purpose in doing a constitutional amendment anymore because they know the states won't agree and won't do it. So they simply just do something strange right out of Washington, D.C. with that black magic. Apparently that bully pulpit has superpowers. I remember when Obama stood behind it and virtually with the magic wand said, any of you illegals here between the ages of 18 and 24, from Mexico, you have amnesty. There was no paperwork even. It was just literally a verbal command. I mean, nothing like that should ever happen in the United States of America, and yet it happens. So the war on drugs must end. It has to end, particularly on marijuana. So, I have to support this bill. Once again, guys, whether or not you use marijuana, you have to look at beyond that to the lies, the deceit, plus the industry that has been denied to us here in America with hemp alone. I joked about it earlier, but it's nothing to joke about. The hemp industry is something that really could have helped the United States of America. For those of you who are tree huggers out there, and that's okay to hug a tree. We talked about that in an earlier podcast.
Just avoid the locust.
Yeah, avoid the locust and anything that emits sap. That's all we're saying. But the tree industry, of the trees, we wouldn't need to cut down as many trees if we were growing hemp, and that's a fact. That is a fact. So,
Well, you could get 3 full crops of hemp out of a season.
Yep. So, guys, I could bring up reason after reason after reason for the reason why marijuana and the hemp industry should have been here all along. But I think I've made my point. Most of you probably know already. Hemp will save a lot of trees, says Rabid Cody. Yep, it sure will. So, but I'll tell you what, though. I'd like to kind of start the process of wrapping up. We're going to stay here in Discord for at least another half an hour. But I want to thank everyone who doesn't just talk the talk about liberty. Everyone who talks the talk and walks the walk are heroes. Because liberty doesn't happen by itself. It never has. It takes effort. It takes time. And in extreme cases, it takes blood. Sweat and tears. Liberty is always something you're going to have to work for. Your masters won't give it to you. Your masters in DC won't give you liberty.
And YouTube, by the way, the reference to blood only comes when you drop the clipboard on your toe and that bleeds.
Yeah, there you go.
We're not talking
YouTube.
about anything else here.
Yep. So, for those of you who truly understand and are working for more liberty in your state, thank you. I can't say that enough. Thank you. We need more like you. And those of you who do it, please encourage your friends and family and your coworkers to actually pick up the phone and make a phone call once in a while to a senator or to a representative in your state to make your state a better place, to have more freedom for not just you, but your progeny. It's on you. Your kids can't do this. You do it for them. And when they grow up, it'll be their responsibility to do it for their kids. This is the way it works. That's what we're doing here in Missouri. That's what every state should be doing. And we're not here saying we're better than any other state, but we certainly are leading the way. We shouldn't have to be, as we're Missouri. We're in the middle of the country. You'd think that, a more populous state or a richer state, would be leading the way to liberty. For some reason, we have some magic going on here. And we're not like New Hampshire. We're not importing liberty. We're not begging people to move here to help us to restore liberty to our state. We don't do that. We're homegrown. People in Missouri just happen to be liberty-minded. We're not sure why.
We're the show-me state.
Yeah, we're the show-me state. It's in the water. Something. I'm not sure what it is. But about 1/3 of the people in Missouri think like, in the forms of, all forms of liberty. That's what they think like. And that's one of the beautiful things about living in the state. I love the state. I'm a transplant. My wife and I came here 25 years ago. And I like it here better than Minnesota a lot. In Minnesota, people don't think like this. Trust me. And in fact, maybe we can do a podcast someday about what it's like in other states and have people come in and tell us, because I can tell you exactly what it's like in Minnesota. The thought processes are very different. People don't think in terms of liberty. They really don't. They think about, basically what's best for them. How can they best benefit? We're down here in Missouri, people are like, well, how can my kids benefit? It's a different mindset. You're skipping a generation in your thought processes. It's less narcissistic, maybe. I don't want to assign that to my family. My family doesn't think this way, but I know people in Minnesota and they do think that way. Warrior Class 3 says, my liberty comes from my creator, not the Constitution, not the government, not any man. I will fight words or swords, fight with words or swords. You decide. Mr. Wannabe Tyrant. Yep, I agree. And so, and 100%, your freedoms come from your creator. That is correct. It's natural law, God's law, any way you want to put it. And let's see. Flyover says, backing Skelton here in Camden County. Very liberty-minded. Well, so is the entire county of Camden. I mean, you guys have the Second Amendment sanctuary, thing going on there, which is pretty cool. Okay. All right, gang. Does anyone have anything to add before I wrap it up?
I was going to say about 3 truths in life here. Politicians and media lies. Let's see here. Don't forget to bully and ridicule your local political parasites. There's one more now. I can't remember what it is. Oh, well.
Yeah, it's enough to
2
know
out of
that.
3 ain't bad.
Yep. It's enough to know. It's refreshing, isn't it, gang? Because everyone pretty much knows the mainstream media lies through their teeth now because of the beer flu.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's kind of generally accepted now. So, I want to thank all of you. Donkey Punch has come back in. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight, particularly those of you who participated. I really do appreciate your input. There is no alliance without all of you. So you guys are the best. And I love all of you guys. Thank you very much. And those of you on YouTube, please do look at the description section down below. I've linked to all the pertinent bills we talked about tonight. 4 out of 6 of those need attention. Just rewatch the video and you'll see which ones. Keep the phone calls and emails going. We need them. And thank you very much. And by the way, we're doing it too. We walk the walk too. We're making the phone calls, doing the emails. House Bill 1613. Yeah, that's the one we have to work on, Caleb. We gotta do a little bit of work on that one. Yep. Okay, so thank you all for joining. We'll be in the Discord for the next half hour. If any of you want to jump in and say hello, you guys all take care. May God bless each and every one of you. Take care, gang.
Later.